I want you to think about something for a second. Just put yourself in a completely normal, everyday scenario.
Like walking into the office.
Yeah, exactly. Walking into the office, or maybe you're just grabbing coffee with a friend, and they casually ask you, how are you feeling right now?
Which is such a standard question.
Right, but what is your absolute default, knee-jerk answer? Do you just say good? Or maybe, bad?
Or fine. That's a big one.
Oh, fine is huge.
Yeah.
Or if you're having a particularly rough morning, maybe you go with upset or stressed. It's completely automatic for most of us.
It really is.
We have this vast, rich human experience, yet we rely on these tiny, simple, generic words to describe incredibly complex internal states. But what if defaulting to those basic words is actually sabotaging your mental health?
Yeah, that's the real question.
What if the simplicity of your vocabulary is literally making your daily life significantly harder? So we are pulling from a really compelling stack of research today to explore a concept called emotional granularity.
Which is a fascinating area.
It's so cool. We're looking at decades of work here, spanning psychological current directions from a foundational 2015 study by Kashdan, Barrett, and McKnight, all the way up to these massive, large-scale textual analyses of mental health published just recently in 2024.
The data we have now is just incredible.
It is. And our mission for you today for this deep dive is to uncover how precisely labeling your emotions is not just, a nice communication skill. It is a literal biological shield against emotional overwhelm.
A biological shield. I love that phrasing.
We want to show you exactly how upgrading your emotional vocabulary actively changes your brain chemistry. So, okay, let's unpack this. Because to really get why vocabulary matters so much, we have to completely flip how we think about emotions in the first place.
Right, because most people have a very specific assumption about feelings.
Yeah, we usually think of emotions as something that just happens to us, right? Like a reflex. You see something scary and a switch flips inside you.
Exactly. The traditional view has always been exactly that, a stimulus-response model. The assumption was always that you have these hardwired emotional circuits in your brain.
Like a literal fear button.
Right. You see a threat, the fear circuit lights up, and you feel fear. But modern constructionist accounts of emotion, and we see this a lot in the work by Homan and colleagues from 2021, they completely upend that idea.
They just throw it out.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
According to this newer, extensively researched model, emotions do not just happen to you. Your brain actively constructs them from scratch, every single time.
Wait, so the brain is physically building the experience of the emotion in real time?
Yes.
How does it actually do that? That sounds exhausting.
Well, think of your brain as being trapped inside this dark, silent box, which is your skull.
Okay, a dark, silent box.
Right. It has no direct access to the outside world. All it receives are ambiguous physical signals from your body. So it senses a racing heart, maybe a change in body temperature, a tightness in the chest or sweaty palms.
Just raw data.
Exactly, just raw physical sensations. The brain has to make sense of these sensations, and to do that, it searches through your past experiences and your concepts, and the primary concepts it uses are your emotional vocabulary.
Interesting.
It uses the words you know to issue predictions about what your body should do next to survive whatever situation you're in.
That is wild. So having a limited emotional vocabulary would be like, imagine a doctor in a high-stakes emergency room trying to diagnose this really complex, life-threatening illness.
Okay, I like this.
But by some weird rule, they're only allowed to ask the patient if they feel icky or nice.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Right. If the only diagnostic tool the doctor has is the word icky, they can't possibly prescribe the right treatment. I mean, they have no idea if the patient's having a heart attack or an allergic reaction or just a panic attack.
Right, the treatment for each is completely different.
Exactly, but the label is just icky.
That analogy hits the nail on the head, actually. If the brain's internal doctor only has the word bad to work with, it prescribes a generalized, messy, completely unhelpful physiological response.
Wait, though, let me push back on this a little. If my heart is racing, it's racing. Like the biology is already happening. Are we actually inventing the emotion just by naming it? Or are we just describing a biological reality that is already humming along in the background?
That is the million-dollar question. And what's fascinating here is that the words you know act as the literal blueprints your brain uses to construct your physical reality.
Blueprints.
Yeah, you are not just slapping a label onto a pre-existing emotion that is already fully formed. The research shows that our emotional experiences are only adaptive when they are tailored precisely to the specific needs of a given situation.
Okay, so if I only have a vague word.
Right. If your brain only has the blueprint for a vague concept like bad, it just throws everything at the wall. It dumps a generalized mix of stress hormones into your system because it doesn't know exactly what it's fighting.
It's just panicking?
Exactly. But if your brain has the blueprint for, say, disappointed or alienated or marginalized, it constructs a highly specific, targeted physiological response that helps you navigate that exact social situation.
So the word you use literally dictates the chemical and physical experience your body goes through.
It does. The blueprint dictates the building.
Wow. Okay, so if you only have a blueprint for a one-room shack, like just the words good or bad, the only structure your brain knows how to build, no matter what kind of weather is coming.
That's a great way to put it.
Which really brings us to the real-world stakes of this research. Because knowing that words construct our reality, what actually happens to people who lack those architectural blueprints? Like, what happens to someone walking around with a highly limited vocabulary for their feelings?
Well, this is where the topic shifts from just being fascinating neuroscience to a really urgent public health issue. Because a lack of emotional granularity is a profound vulnerability. Researchers recently, this was Vishnu Patla and colleagues in 2024, they conducted these large-scale textual analyses to see how this plays out in the real world.
Textual analysis, like reading people's writing.
Yeah, exactly. Rather than just asking people how they felt in a sterile lab setting, they fed massive data sets of natural language diaries, social media posts, essays into algorithms.
Oh, so they were looking at how millions of people naturally write about their feelings out in the wild.
Yes. They analyzed how people actually express their internal states day to day.
And what did the algorithms find?
They found a striking aggregate-level correlation. Lower emotional granularity, meaning the tendency to use only broad, vague words for negative feelings, is actually a reliable indicator for serious mental health conditions.
Oh, really? Like what kind of conditions?
We are talking about major depression and severe anxiety disorders. People who cannot differentiate their emotional states into specific categories are significantly more likely to suffer from clinical mental health issues.
That's incredibly heavy. But it also means having a rich vocabulary acts as a defense mechanism against those same conditions.
Absolutely.
There was a study we looked at focusing on adolescence that really caught my eye. Lenars and colleagues from 2017. Because, teenagers are practically biologically primed to be overwhelmed by their feelings.
Oh, for sure. The teenage years are intense.
But the researchers found that adolescents who possessed a detailed awareness of specific negative emotional states actually had a powerful protective dimension of well-being.
Yes, that protective factor kicks in surprisingly early.
So giving a teenager the ability to articulate, I feel alienated by my peer group today, instead of just screaming, I hate everything, actually protects their long-term mental health.
Because the adolescent brain is just highly reactive. So when a teen can clearly categorize a feeling, it prevents that feeling from spiraling into a total identity crisis.
Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting for me. Let's look at the actual mechanics of this. Because if I'm having a terrible day and I sit down to meticulously analyze exactly how miserable I am,
Right.
and I assign it a highly specific word like humiliated or despairing, aren't I just throwing gasoline on the fire? Like, doesn't focusing on negative emotions with a magnifying glass just make you dwell on them and become way more miserable?
You would think so, right? It seems entirely counterintuitive. You'd naturally assume that zooming in on the pain makes the pain bigger.
Yeah, that's what I would assume.
But if we connect this to the bigger picture of brain anatomy, we see the exact opposite is true. This was highlighted in a 2022 study by Urbis and her team. And it all comes down to a mechanical process called downregulation.
Downregulation, like turning down the volume knob on a stereo.
Exactly like that.
So how does finding a word turn down the volume?
It's all about which parts of your brain are doing the heavy lifting in that moment. So when you encounter a stressor, your amygdala, which is the brain's alarm bell, starts ringing.
It's screaming that there is a threat.
Right, and if you lump your feelings into a giant, ambiguous bucket labeled bad, your brain just doesn't know how to solve the problem.
Because the threat is undefined.
Exactly. So the amygdala just keeps ringing the bell. It pumps out cortisol and adrenaline, keeping you in a state of prolonged physiological stress. You cannot downregulate the alarm because you literally don't know what you are fighting.
So you are just swaying blindly in the dark, and your body is completely exhausted from the effort.
Yes. But high emotional granularity forces a shift in brain activity. When you pinpoint the exact feeling when you dig deep and identify that you aren't just angry, but rather jealous of a coworker's promotion, you have to engage your prefrontal cortex.
Which is the logical part of the brain.
Exactly. It's the logic, language, and problem-solving center. The prefrontal cortex literally has to turn on to search your vocabulary for that complex word. And here is the magic center.
The act of engaging the prefrontal cortex forces the amygdala to quiet down.
Wait, really? Just by accessing the language center, you are biologically overriding the panic center. Yes, you are shifting your brain out of a generalized threat response and into problem-solving mode.
That makes so much sense.
The brain knows how to process jealousy. It can formulate a plan for jealousy. This specific identification protects individuals from resorting to maladaptive behaviors, like lashing out or shutting down or self-medicating. It literally shields them from severe emotional overwhelm.
Because you've finally named the monster in the closet.
Right.
It is no longer just a terrifying shadow. It's a specific, tangible thing you can actually deal with.
Exactly.
Okay, this brings up a massive question for anyone listening who relates to that one-room shack analogy from earlier.
I'm sure a lot of people do.
Right. We know the protective power of this granularity now. But are you genetically stuck with your current emotional vocabulary? Like if you grew up in a household where people only ever said, I'm fine or I'm mad, are you just doomed to have a low-resolution emotional life forever? Or can you actively rewire this?
Oh, the science is incredibly optimistic here, and Homan's work touches on this too. Emotional granularity is absolutely not a fixed personality trait.
Oh, thank goodness.
It's a skill. It's a cognitive muscle that varies within you over time, and more importantly, it deeply responds to active training. Clinical researchers study this through a method called intensive ambulatory assessment.
Intensive ambulatory assessment, which sounds like a terrifying medical procedure where you are interrogated in an ambulance.
It does sound like that?
But it's actually just a fancy way of saying pinging people on their phones throughout the day, right?
Yeah, it's a very clunky term for a very elegant practice.
Yeah.
In these studies, participants are prompted repeatedly as they move through their normal environment.
Like while they're out living their lives.
Right, maybe while they're at the grocery store or sitting in traffic. The prompt forces them to pause, check in with their internal state, and find a precise label for what they are experiencing right in that moment.
It kind of reminds me of using a macro tracking app for a diet, or like a fitness tracker.
Oh, that's a good comparison.
Yeah, like you log your protein and carbs because you want to understand your nutrition and build muscle. Here, you are logging your specific emotional states to build neural pathways.
Exactly.
But tell me this. Does simply logging the emotion and finding the word actually change the feeling itself? Or am I just becoming a highly articulate observer of my own misery?
That is such an important question, and it goes right back to the theory of constructed emotion we discussed at the very beginning.
Where the brain builds the feeling.
Right. Remember, your brain uses words as the blueprints to build the emotion. So by actively pausing, logging your state, and searching for a more precise word, you are actively altering the brain's predictive models in real time.
You're handing the brain a new set of blueprints.
Yes. So as you expand your vocabulary and track your moods, the experience itself actually changes. You are not just observing a different emotion. Your brain is literally constructing a different, more manageable physiological state because you gave it better instructions.
The word changes the chemistry.
It really does.
So knowing all of this neuroscience doesn't actually do us any good if we don't know how to rewrite those brain blueprints. How do we actually train this? Like, how does the person listening right now take these clinical studies and apply them on their smartphone today?
Well, based on the literature, there are 3 concrete takeaways to start rewiring your brain's granularity.
Okay, let's hear them.
The first step is to artificially constrain yourself. You need to ban vague words.
Just completely outlaw the defaults.
Stop defaulting to good, bad, upset, or fine. When someone asks how you are, or even when you are just thinking to yourself on your commute, refuse to accept those placeholder words.
It's got to be hard at first.
It is. Force your brain to dig deeper. It will feel uncomfortable and clunky at first because your brain wants to take the path of least resistance, but you have to force the prefrontal cortex to do the work.
Okay, but what if I hit a wall? Like, what if I ban the word bad, but I genuinely can't figure out what else to call the feeling?
That leads perfectly to the second takeaway. Use an emotion wheel.
An ocean wheel.
Yeah. You can search for one online and save the image to your phone right now. It is a visual map that organizes emotions. In the very center, you have the primary colors of feelings. Basic words like angry, sad, happy, fearful.
Okay.
But as you trace outward, the wheel branches into highly specific shades.
So you start at angry in the middle, and you trace the line outward to see your options.
What's that?
Like, am I feeling indignant? Am I feeling violated? Am I feeling provoked?
Yes, it gives you a menu to bridge the vocabulary gap when your brain is struggling to find the right blueprint. It does the heavy lifting for your language center.
That's super practical.
And that brings us to the third takeaway, which is where you see the immediate biological benefit. Context is everything.
Context is everything. What does that mean here?
The label you choose from that wheel dictates your body's physical response. The classic example in the literature involves the physical sensation of a racing heart, shallow breathing, and sweaty palms right before you have to give a big public presentation.
Oh, I know that feeling.
Right. If you label that physical sensation as anxious, your brain interprets the situation as a threat.
The amygdala starts ringing the bell.
Exactly. Cortisol floods your system, and your biological impulse is to just flee the room. But, and this is key, the physical sensations of anxiety and the physical sensations of excitement are practically identical in the body.
Wait, really?
Yes. Heart racing, dilated pupils, fast breathing.
So the raw data is the exact same, but the blueprint is different.
Precisely. If you pause, reevaluate that exact same physiological state, and label it as anticipatory or exhilarated, it completely alters the reaction.
Wow.
Your brain says, we are not under attack. We are preparing our body for a challenge. The physical symptoms might remain. Your heart is still beating fast, but the psychological suffering disappears. You have used granularity to change your reality.
That is incredible. So what does this all mean for daily life? Let me ask for a realistic application here. Let's say I am in a deeply heated argument with my spouse, or I'm in an incredibly stressful work meeting with a toxic boss. I can't realistically pull out a color-coded emotion reel PDF on my phone mid-fight without seeming completely detached or, passive-aggressive or robotic.
Oh, no, definitely not.
So how do I actually use this?
You definitely shouldn't try to pull up a chart mid-argument. That would not go over well.
Right.
The goal of this research is not to turn you into a robot flipping through a manual during a crisis. The goal is to build the cognitive muscle before the crisis hits.
Oh, I see.
You use the intensive ambulatory assessment, the practice of checking in with yourself and consulting the emotion wheel during moments of quiet reflection.
Like when you're alone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You do it on your commute or while you were drinking your morning coffee or right before bed. By regularly mapping your internal states when you are calm, you make those highly specific neural pathways stronger and faster.
You are laying the track so the train can run smoothly on it later.
Beautifully said. So that when you are in that high-stakes argument with your spouse, your brain doesn't just panic and dump you into the vague, angry bucket.
It already knows the specific word.
Exactly. Without you even having to think about it, your brain have the vocabulary readily available to say, I am feeling dismissed.
And responding to being dismissed leads to a completely different, much more productive conversation than just screaming because you are angry.
It changes the entire trajectory of the conflict because you are solving the actual problem, not just reacting to the alarm bell.
Man, that's so powerful. We're to bring this deep dive full circle for you listening. Emotional granularity is not about sounding poetic. It is not about being a human thesaurus so you can impress people at dinner parties.
Definitely not.
It is the fundamental architecture of your mental health. Your brain can only build what it has the words to describe.
That's the core of it.
So the next time someone asks you, how are you? Or the next time you feel a massive wave of emotion hit you, taking just one extra second to find the exact, precise word isn't just an exercise in semantics. It could literally be the most effective, biologically grounded stress relief tactic you use all day.
You are quite literally handing your nervous system the exact instructions it needs to calm down and process the world.
And as we wrap up, I want to leave you with a final lingering question to ponder. Because we've talked a lot about how this works internally, inside your own mind and body.
Right.
We know that simply renaming anxiety to anticipation can literally alter your physical body chemistry by engaging your prefrontal cortex. But what happened if we applied this exact same emotional precision to how we interact with the outside world?
Oh, that's a big question.
Think about how you consume the news or how you interact on social media. Almost everything online is framed in these massive, vague, highly reactive buckets. Things are either outrage, destroy, toxic, or amazing.
There's very little nuance.
Zero nuance. So if our personal vocabulary dictates our personal mental health, what is our cultural vocabulary doing to our society? Could a society that actively trains itself in emotional granularity actually cure our culture of chronic outrage, simply by forcing us to find better, more precise words?